Pinays, quick question for you. What is your definition of gender equality? Do you think it's just a numbers game? Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of B2B Breakfast to Business with your morning girl, Bea Lim, also the managing director of Team Asia. Ladies and gents, you are tuning in to B2B Breakfast to Business, and you know that here in this podcast, we talk about life, we talk about shop, we talk real. And for this episode, we are going to actually bring together, the series of stories we are featuring this March because we are celebrating International Women's Month, right? So International Women's Day happened last March 8th. Last week, we also had a fantastic session with Keisha Mayuga of Life Cycles PH, talking about how her advocacy was all about bringing cycling gear or bicycles to our frontliners during the pandemic. And, also the gender stereotypes, breaking down the gender stereotypes in the mobility, transportation, and urban planning sector or category, right? So today we are going to continue that conversation of featuring our fabulous and inspiring lady bosses that are really, the movers and shakers of their own industry, coming up with, these different organizations, these different advocacies that are answering the needs of our world, the needs of our society, especially in a COVID-19 world. And for today, I am so fortunate and so honored to have with us a fabulous lady boss. And today we are welcoming Miss Angela Chen, who is a co-founder and CEO of Eskwelabs. Which was founded on the belief that education really is still the driver of social mobility. Angela is a Wonder Woman. She has been learning about how to build social innovations and has been with several finance organizations and NGOs. Angela is also circular economy pioneer at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and was recognized by The Economist, UNEP, and the World Economic Forum for her previous work on sustainable oceans. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us a Wonder Woman, Angela, here at B2B Breakfast to Business. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you so much, Bea, for inviting me to the show and also for giving me the title of Lady Boss, although I don't think I've thought of myself as that. Definitely want to be a lady and boss both separately, but together is also very good as well.
Fabulous. Angela, as I mentioned earlier, we are celebrating, lady bosses that are moving and shaking our different industries, right? Because we live in such a transformative time. Can't say that enough. So we're just going to go right into it. I just really wanted to check in with you, as as an entrepreneur, as a driver of your own advocacies and the like. How was the pandemic for you? What was the experience like?
Yeah, so it's been now roughly a year, right, since the start of lockdown in Manila. And I think it probably feels like much longer than a year. And it's aged everybody involved in this process. So I think for me, on a personal level, I think I've been very lucky to have not been too personally myself, my family affected by the pandemic. I know it's not the case for a lot of people. And also being very lucky to be working a digital job, right? One where I didn't lose my job or couldn't go to work because of COVID. For the company, it's been a very transformative time because, as you know, education overall, I think, as a space has just been disrupted by the fact that now delivery has to go from in person to online. Luckily for us, we were already doing blended learning before the pandemic. So it was already a mix of in person and online. And we were also already starting to build the online platform that is the learning management system. And so, it was just an acceleration of that. On the other side, we also work on the intersection of future of learning and future work. right? Because Eskwelabs is the online data upskilling school. And most of our learners, I mean, almost all of our learners are adults, right? So that's a little bit different when you talk about education for kids and, the kids have to get on Zoom and there's all these different interactions. For our learners, they're doing this to upskill themselves so they can improve their job prospects. So of course, when the economy goes down and jobs are lost because of COVID, it was also very disruptive in that sense of, okay, now what's my job prospect? How does that, how does that affect, my current job, but also, future opportunities?
No, absolutely. I hear you. A lot of the things that you also mentioned was, the transition, like with things happening because of COVID, there are so many things that had to change, right? So many things that we've had to change around, and that has really, I like the word transformed, the way things used to be, or the plans that we had actually that were, put on pause a little bit, right? Now let's talk about that. I said last week that old proverb that goes necessity is the mother of invention, or I would like to say also that necessity is also the mother of evolution, right? We have to evolve to adapt not only to the changes brought on, but to the future that we want to achieve. So I want to talk more about Eskwelabs because you already started talking about it, Angela, but I'd really love to know more about this and really what was the inspiration behind this venture for you? Go ahead.
Sure. So what we're trying to do at Eskwelabs is really reimagine the vocational school, and with a mission of really democratizing access to the future of work for those from diverse backgrounds. And so, for instance, today, 60% of our learners are women and 80% of them come from a non-STEM background, right? So really, I think we already know that the future of work is coming. And given the young demographics, not just in the Philippines, but everywhere, right, in Southeast Asia, millions of young people are going into the workforce looking for a transformative career moment through what is happening, in the digital economy. But there's a common misconception that in order to work a techie job, it means that you have to be a software developer or work on the engineering side, right? And so that's really a misconception because, while it is true that new coders are needed, a lot of incumbent roles are being disrupted by tech, right? So even, let's say, for your work, right, in marketing, I'm sure there's been lots of ways where digital marketing analytics have come and disrupted the job description for what does that mean for somebody to work in marketing and be a marketer. And so our main premise is around the idea that everybody can learn a certain set of digital skills around data, because data is actually going to be the common language in all of these future work jobs, right? Where in any single role, not just in the coder roles, you have to go in the job and be able to analyze data, to look at some numbers, create a hypotheses about, what might be true, right? Like in marketing, that might be, hey, I want to do an A/B test with a campaign and kind of see what's going to happen, right? And then be able to then make decisions on the results of that test using numbers, right? That would actually be something very core to every single role instead of it just being about coding.
Love it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Angela, I love what you said because, I mean, again, I'm sorry to bring back that word because it's mind blowing for me in this particular episode is it's transformation. It's actually with transformation, we need to be able to equip people with the basic tools that they need to transform into whoever or whatever it is that they want to do, right? And so I love that you brought on that we need to change that perception that the future of work is all about coding and just being techie, when in fact there's so many other skills that we need to know that can fuel that future of work, so to speak. So it's about laying the foundation. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's right. And really just creating a more inclusive picture of what that future work movement looks like, right? So by making it only about coding, that's actually not allowing people who might not have a STEM background, or typically women who don't see themselves working in that role, to participate in this, like you said, this transformative moment that is happening across all of our sectors. And all of that has just been accelerated by COVID, right? With, let's say, brick and mortar going online to e-commerce, all these different things now are going to exist in the virtual space. And who are those people creating those virtual spaces, right? Typically, it's been men up to this time. And so in order to participate in creating of that future, then we need to learn the language of how to communicate what it is that we want.
Absolutely. Okay. There are like so many questions coming at me, Angela, but I'll pick and choose first. So I'll pick COVID first, and then I want to have a longer conversation about another thing that you mentioned, right? Which is really that your advocacy or a lot of the things that we are doing are geared towards women and of course equipping them, right? But let's talk about COVID for a sec, because one of the things that you also mentioned earlier was that the changes accelerated because of the pandemic, right? So I want to talk about that first. What were the challenges for you and Eskwelabs during COVID-19, and really making sure that, you know, we were still, you're providing this platform, like democratizing access to education, as you mentioned earlier. Were there challenges that you guys faced during this time?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, what we do is we provide live project-based learning with a peer community that is driven by mentors from the industry. So mentors who are data professionals will be working with us to, you know, co-create and design and deliver sector-specific content when it comes to data skills at different levels. And learners actually get together and they work on projects as if they're on the job, right? So that's our product. So definitely, you know, in just the immediate happening of COVID, there was a lot of anxiety around just the you know, big question mark of, you know, what's going on in my life, my job, am I still going to have it? When we, you know, talk about the idea of transformation, yes, that's happening on the skill level, but I think ultimately we're working with people, right? So there's so much uncertainty and anxiety that came during that period. That was one of the really big challenge. Given, yeah, like our learners were in this situation, our team was also in this situation. Now that things have kind of come to like a new normal, and I think people are now more accepting of this 100% online learning format, right? Like how you and I are speaking right now in the Zoom format, right? And it needs to be as authentic and as real as if we were in a room together, you know, recording this episode. At the same time, I think there's still some challenges around working online, right? Both for our team now as a remote team, as well as for the learners who have never met their classmates, right? Who are then being told that they have to collaborate and they have to learn and produce these results. That there's still that process of learning of, okay, how do you do this online, right? And I think that's, if anything, that's going to be an essential part of what it means to be a digital worker today. Like you will have to work remote, you will have to work online. So might as well learn it through this process right now.
No, yeah, actually, I was just about to say it's like on the job training. Like you want to go future of work, well, you got to learn, you know, you need to do future of learning first, which is like, you know, we're here. And so are you saying also, Angela, that in the past year or so, right, you've while it was challenging, you've also seen an uptick in terms of learning, because you said that most of our students are actually grown up, right? So you've seen an uptick of learning online.
Yeah, definitely. So we saw that especially during the COVID like lockdown period, there was a 300% increase in people that were signing up for our free courses that were more or less self-paced with some live sessions. And I think in terms of the pain point, right, for the paid product we have, which is a part-time program that is anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks, where we provide a job guarantee, that pain point has been magnified by the job losses from COVID. So this value proposition of having the job guarantee, because we've, you know, got these connections with companies, has become attractive post-COVID, essentially.
No, that's awesome because again, like what we said, necessity is the mother of invention, and now I will add evolution, right? So that's fantastic. I'm curious though, Angela, only if you can share, of course. What were the topics or what were the classes that were most that were most popular during that time? I'm really curious.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we have like almost like two tracks of classes, right? We have the data science related courses, and then we have the data analytics courses. So in the data analytics track, and that is really for everybody, no coding is needed. There was really an explosive demand from those who were then switching from working for a company to becoming a freelancer. That now, after some time, we also know the data from let's say these freelancing gig economy platforms where they had shared data like in 2020. Philippines actually topped the global list of countries that saw the biggest growth in freelancer supply, right? It was something like 200% for the Philippines. And so that also made sense, I think, in terms of the research we did. We really look at, okay, we want to teach people these skills, but what is the ultimate outcome that they're going to get? We definitely want some of the longer term things like, they become critical thinkers, lifetime learners. In the short term, it's about income, right? It's about increasing income. So when we looked at the freelancer rates, those who are virtual assistants, which is typically the biggest portion of people who are freelance in the Philippines, like work in this type of job, they're making something like $5 an hour, right? Like that's the average rate that's given across the different markets, right? US, Australia, etc. When you can become a freelancer who has some analytic skills, right, where you can help your client maybe look at a spreadsheet they have and turn out some insights, you can go to $8 an hour, right?
Huge jump.
Yeah, that is a percentage-wise a huge jump, right? And so that was also, I think, reflected in the demand for analytics course for those from a freelancing background, and
Well,
those
also
are
because
typically also women.
I love that. I love that they are more women. No, I was just about to say that it's also because that is what is needed now. That is what is demanded. That we are living in a data-driven world, right? And it's good to have that skill. Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing that. Now, I'd like to touch on one of the things that really caught my attention when you were sharing, how it was with Eskwelabs, right? And you said what we wanted to do was to provide opportunities, right? The foundation for people to be able to take part of the future of work, which is mostly like what you said, the platforms or that space is usually built by men. And so what we want to do is to also be able to provide women with the opportunity to be part of that world. Now, let's talk about that, right? I mean, I love that you already started the conversation, so I need not do a super big dive, but you guys all know that we celebrated IWD last March 8th, and the theme really is women in leadership, achieving an equal world in a COVID-19 future, right? And for me, that's such a beautiful theme because we see how important it is to see genders as equal, right? Because the work knows no stereotype. So I do want to touch on that, Angela, because you already mentioned it, right? How is it like in the education industry, or at least in your sector or category? You've mentioned already that most of your students are female. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, like COVID has accelerated tech-enabled companies, but it's set back years of progress on gender equality in the workplace, like period, right? So we know that more women are in sectors that were heavily impacted by the pandemic, right? Things like hospitality, retail, right? There was even stats from the Philippines, specifically from PSA, that said something like 68% of those who are retrenched are women, right? They don't make up 68% of the labor force, right? So that clearly means that they're disproportionately being affected. And that is directly related to this idea of how resilient are these jobs that women are doing now and in the future, right? If women keep being the dominant workers in jobs where it could be disrupted by tech, then this is not just going to be a legacy of COVID, but rather it's going to be a trend that is going to stick, right? So in order to, you know, make us more resilient and not be as impacted by not just future pandemics, but just this trend of automation, we need to get more women in roles where they are working with machines, right? Where they are working with the tools that are now being used in the digital workplace. I think that's the really sombering, right? Like it's quite depressing, to be honest, to know that. At the same time, I think like as an entrepreneur, what I see, and this is just anecdotal, and like I don't have the numbers for this. Like I see more female entrepreneurs create startups in education and healthcare because that's what women care about, right? Women care about learning. I'm not saying men don't, but overwhelmingly, there are more founders in edtech who are women. And oftentimes, like if it's a K-12 thing, it's because they are moms and they wanted to create the solution for themselves and for their kids. Same thing on the healthcare side. I think women care about well-being, mental health, like these type of issues. So I think we can look forward to a lot of innovation in this space being driven by women and just their general desire to improve the state of the world, and hopefully through that, right, they include more sort of intention in how to reach users, learners, beneficiaries who are women as well.
No, nice. Angela, thank you so much because you're actually bringing, I'm not going to say a new one, but you're bringing a different perspective into the conversation of gender equality, right? It's not just about that men and women are equal in the workforce. It is also the discussion. And I loved what you said, that there is that reality that more women work in particular sectors that can be disrupted not only by a pandemic but any changes that could go on that the future of work can accelerate, right, because of tech. And what we need to do really is to be able to equip our women, right, who are passionate, who are hardworking, who are resilient as well, who do want to to push forward with the tools that they need to participate in this world of tech, right? And I think that that's really also one of the things that we are highlighting with women in tech. But I absolutely loved also that you brought on that you are seeing more women providing solutions or coming up with startups and initiatives or advocacies on healthcare and education. And I think that and of course I'd love to know your thoughts on this, right? But I'd like to think it's also coming from our natural our second nature of nurturing, right? Of being able to provide a safe space and environment for people around us. It's mothering, right? It's that mother instinct of being able to help and provide solutions that are at the very core. And with what you said, healthcare, making sure that you take care of your health, and education are at the core of how we grow, right, as individuals. What do you think about that, Angela?
Yeah, so I'm very bullish on the fact that we will see more. I mean, first of all, there's I think you probably know there's an annual report published by Google and Bain for the digital ecosystem in Southeast Asia. It's called E-Economy. And in 2020, that was the first time that they included edtech and health tech as the two emerging sectors in the digital economy. And so if this prediction is correct, right, that more of the entrepreneurs in these two sectors are going to be women, and there's more capital, there's more VCs, there's more attention on these sectors, then I think we'll get to see that more women are going to be at the table in terms of creating these companies, right, that are going to impact millions of people. I think it's super positive. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I love that visual that you gave us, Angela, that there will be more women in the table, right? in creating the solutions for the future. Just last week we were also talking about, the importance of bringing in everybody into planning, having all genders represented, just to make it more inclusive for everyone, right? It's not just a numbers game of how many men and how many women. It's not about that. It's about making sure that we bring all perspectives in the table to create solutions that will be for all, right? So I absolutely love that. I do have to ask you, Angela, your thoughts on this. I mean, startup world, education, tech, right? Do you think that there's still a gender bias in the workforce?
Of course. Yes and no. I think no in a sense, and this is both, I think, yeah, anecdotally for me, my personal experience, and also some of the data that we see in like male dominated fields, where actually at the junior level, there is equality, right? At the junior level, women associates in law firms or professional services like finance make about the same as male. It's only when you get to the top where there's less and less women, right? So then there's that aspect of like, okay, we need to build a talent pipeline of women who are going to stay in those competitive firms, in those competitive positions, and want to go for the executive level, C-suite level positions. On the other side, I think, yeah, there's always going to be stories, right? Anecdotes, like bad apples of cases where there is still discrimination that happens when people are not conscious, and that just it's quite difficult. I think for anybody who has to go through it to deal with those micro aggressions, right? So just like one example I can give quickly. So before Eskwelabs, you mentioned earlier, I started my career working in finance, right, which is a typically male-dominated field, and there is a lot of effort, right, at the firm level for especially large financial institutions to really make sure that women feel they're being supported, and there's a lot of like women in finance events and all of these things. However, there is such a, I think, entrenched level of culture that's been there historically that is not something that it could just go away in one day, right? That is, there's a lot of men working here. They love a certain type of sports, and that is just the conversation, right? That's the water cooler conversation when you're not working, right? Those are the things I think that made me really conscious for Eskwelabs when we look at the topics that we pick for projects, when we bring that to our learners, to make sure that it's something that everybody could relate to, right? That it's not just, oh, let's look at the sports data set, right? It's like, oh, let's look at music, right? Everybody can relate to music, right? Regardless of the gender, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, okay, I understand there's a lot of progress that's been made, but constantly I think you need to, now managing a team, like you need to put in the conscious thought of making sure that there is inclusivity, because in some areas there's just entrenched culture, right? Even in the startup world, for instance, like I would go to pitches, and this is mostly before COVID, where I would be doing the pitch, and then afterwards investors would ask questions, but they would address my co-founders, both of whom are guys, right? And that's not intentional. Like that's not something that they did it purposely in like ill will or anything like that, right? But that's just an example of how entrenched some of these attitudes are. Like, oh, who should speak for this company? Oh, I don't know. Like, where's the CEO? Like, probably, this is how I picture how a CEO would look like, right? So these are all the things I think we really try to, like, let's say even on our website, right? We make sure that both female and male students are represented there. When you go there, you'll see not just a version of who you think is going to be in the future of work, which is a man, right? Doing the coding, right? Who are the students or the alums that get highlighted to make sure that I say, hey, actually, like women can learn this too, and they're just as successful as men, right? All these like tiny things add up to a larger picture of what, like, the inclusivity and all of that looks like for the workplace.
No, Angela, I was just like nodding my head and stuff all the time because, sister, I hear you. I was like, I was going to raise a banner. Go, Angela, go. Like, no, but seriously, this has been the ongoing conversation in our own dinner table, right? Like, sure, like we were a family, we are a family that has been raised to see genders equal and all that, and I am happy, we are happy about the progress. I love what you said, there has been progress, we respect that, we're happy about it, but guys, there's still a lot more work to be made because of those little, I loved your term, if I could keep on using it, Angela, microaggressions, right? It's still there. And when you add them up, the little water cooler conversations, the little comments, really that you think it's just a joke, but it does go back to a gender bias, right? That there is a gender bias. And I was writing it down as you were speaking also, as I feel that we need to introduce 3 C's, right? That, while we are making fantastic strides, ladies and gentlemen, we are fantastic strides towards gender equality, there is still a need to have a conscious, collective, and continuous effort of correcting, right? Correcting. Because you're right, Angela, it's so deeply entrenched already in our culture and society, right? There's no finger pointing or whatever here. It's just the reality. It is the reality. Like, for example, sorry, I just need to give that example. Like, for example, you see parking, right? And then, for example, it's not straight. And then someone says, babae yung nag-drive niyan. And you're like, why? And then you see a guy coming out of the car and you're like, was it a girl? Things like that. It's so natural, right? It's so natural. And I loved also what you said, because it is true. Like, there are times you have a presentation, but then there is a natural instinct when it comes to numbers to look at a man. And again, we're not saying it's their fault or whatever, it's just deeply entrenched. And so I really feel strongly, Angela, for our 3 C's. I just came up with it now, just listening to you. Guys, we need to be conscious. We need to have a collective effort, but more importantly, continuous effort in changing things up, right? Like what you said, it's not gonna change overnight, but it will eventually change, and we should be part. We should be part of that change. Oh my goodness, Angela, there's just like a lot of things that we've already covered, and I think that from being able to answer a human need of continuous learning to have a fantastic and fair shot at the future of work at Eskwelabs, and to our conversations on the realities of gender bias in the workplace and how we need to be able to empower women in tech to take part of this beautiful future that we're going to have. I feel that we've covered so many important issues that people need to know. But I do have one last question for you, Angela, and I think that it's really coming from your own experience as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder. Like what you said earlier, there are so many women out there that have solutions in ed tech and health tech, right? But there are also fabulous women there that are writing down their plans. They're writing their plans. They wanna make a difference. What would be your advice, Angela, for women entrepreneurs who wanna do something right now? COVID-19, be damned. I wanna be able to do something now. What would be your advice for them?
Yeah, first of all, they should go and do it, right? That's like the basic advice. The more nuanced one, I think, that I've been thinking about actually recently is I share like the story of, I was working in finance. The firm hired these authors of this book, which was talking about the confidence gap between men and women, right? Where a man would apply for a job after reading the job description and realizing that maybe he actually doesn't have all the skills yet, but he believes that he can learn on the job. So he's going to go for that job and he will apply. The women will typically read that job description and then realize, well, I'm not qualified right now, so I better go and find another job that I can actually do. That's through their research. There's a lot of other things I said, I forgot all of that, but that distinctively is the one thing that I remember, because I remember thinking, wow, like, which one am I, right? And I think that changes sometimes, right? It kind of fluctuates. So recently I've been thinking of this idea of the confidence gap for entrepreneurs, basically, and whether or not now I'm in the first bucket or the second bucket. Because definitely when we started the company, I'm a first-time entrepreneur, no experience, right? I have actually no idea how to run a company. And our team, also, like, the Philippine ecosystem is not as developed as elsewhere. So there aren't a lot of alums, right, from large startups that come and then start these companies. We're all learning together. We all don't know what, right? We're all trying to figure it out together. So in that sense, it's like, okay. And sometimes I'm in the first category where I'm like, I'm going for it. I'm not qualified for this job right now, but I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to learn on the job. But in other instances, I think, and that's the one where when now I'm, trying to be more conscious of for myself, this is also advice for myself and other women, is where am I selling myself short, right? Where am I saying no consciously things where right now I can't do, and I'm not putting up my hand, right? I'm giving that chance to somebody else who probably also doesn't know what they're doing, right? But they're going for it. And so oftentimes I think, like, women are the underdogs in a lot of industries, and especially for entrepreneurship, right? Like, the chance of success anyways for entrepreneurship is very low, and there are even less female entrepreneurs who make it. So oftentimes I think, at least what I observe, is that we are looking for encouragement, right? Because we're an underdog. We're looking for other women to, like you said, like, put up the banner for us, right? And say these words to us. I think that's super important, but we cannot expect it. Cannot expect that, we need to have the encouragement in order to go on, because the reality is entrepreneurship is very hard. It's very, very, very hard. And if you need encouragement and, like, cheerleaders, as a necessary, like, fuel for you, you are not going to get that from your users. Most likely you're not going to get that from your investors, funders. And oftentimes you're not going to get that from your co-founders, because everybody is in that mindset of right now, after this period of COVID, of trying to figure it out. Right? Everybody's in the first category, everybody's in the category of right now, I don't have the credentials to do this job. So then it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to act in a way that says, I'm going to apply for this job anyways, or I'm not going to do it because right now I don't qualify. That decision is going to change a lot of things. And so, yeah, that's also advice for myself, right? To be more conscious about how I deal with those situations.
No, Angela, that is so beautiful, heartfelt, and realistic, right? It really is realistic, because we do experience that crossroads. I experience that too. Like, I want to venture into this one, and you have those two ideas, right? You're like pumped and ready, and let's go for it. But then there's also that voice of doubt. And I think that at this point, like what you said, you need to be able to decide how you're going to want to go forward. I think everybody, I think I can speak for everybody. I hope I can. But I do believe that we all want to move forward. It's onward and forward from here. But the question is, like what you said, do we just go for it now, or do we wait? Do we listen to that voice, or do we just jump with 2 feet in, screaming, saying, yes, we're going to do this, right? And just praying, hoping, but also working for the best, right? I think that's the difference here, is that everybody's pumped and ready also to really work hard to make those dreams a reality. All right, cool. So Angela, that's all the time we have for today. I am so honored to have spoken to you and to really have a very not only interesting but a very honest conversation on what's happening on ground. And I'm very thankful for entrepreneurs like you who are I just to use one of your terms earlier, who is very straightforward, who will be honest and share what is happening, because it is when we give that feedback, and it is when we lay down all the cards, is where we can find also the solutions for the future, which is perfect because you are working towards the future of work. All right, so Angela, at this point, I just really wanted to also give you a chance to tell people where to find more information about Eskwelabs, or any of the other advocacies or ventures that you have. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bea, for this conversation. I really, a couple of days ago was telling my partner that every single day should be International Women's Day. And, and his response was, this is what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody who is like you. And now I realize why you use the term lady boss, and that is correct. Every single day is International Women's Day, and we will advocate until the work is done. So for Eskwelabs, anybody can find out more information about us at eskwelabs.com. And right now we are also hiring for a bunch of positions on the team. So if our mission resonates with you and you want to be a part of a team that wants to change the world, then go to our website, right? And look for those opportunities to join.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. I'm going to tell everybody, guys, please do check this out. It's such a beautiful way for us to not only equip ourselves, but also encourage the community to do the same, because the future of work is, I want to say, it's already here, Angela, right? It's already here. So we got to be prepared.
There's a slogan. I think this is from a couple of years back. I've seen it printed on t-shirts that says, the future is female. So now we amend that to say, the future of work is female. Or, the future of work is female also.
I love it. So guys, that is going to be a venture that Angela and I will do. We will have merch. We will now have merchandise. The future of work is female also. I love it. Well, thank you so much again, Angela, for sharing your passion, for sharing your thoughts, your insights, but more importantly, for inspiring all the women out there. You like what you said, entrepreneurship is hard. The realities of the world are present, are there, but who says we can't overcome them, right? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Angela Chen, Wonder Woman Lady Boss, right? Who really is here to inspire all of us to democratize access to the future of work. So thank you once again, Angela. And ladies and gents, that is it for this week's episode of Breakfast to Business. You guys have heard it earlier, but I'm just going to go ahead and add it in. Angela and I just spoke about the importance of consciously, collectively, and continuously changing deep set workings in our society that says women cannot do the job. Because hey, guess what, guys, the future of work is here, or the future of work, the even like longer future of work is coming. But guess what, women are going to be there, and women are going to be part of it. So we need to be able to change those things around, to truly make an equal world for everybody, because I do believe that everybody deserves to live in an equal world. There you have it, some breakfast musings over your cup of joe here at Breakfast to Business. See you guys next week. That's it for today's episode of B2B Breakfast to Business with your morning girl, Bea Lim. Join our Facebook community, the Breakfast to Business Club, where we can delve deeper into all of these different topics. Also, please don't forget to tune in to Team Asia's social media accounts to keep yourself updated on these breakfast happenings. Remember to stay safe. See you again soon here at B2B Breakfast to Business. Thank you. Ciao.
Breakfast